Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and welcome to Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to sell logically and effectively. This week, I am on the road down here in Florida, but my co-host, Mark Hunter. Mark, I still believe you are in Nebraska. Is that right?
Yes, and it's snowing outside, so back off, okay? Back off.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 70 and sunny down here.
Actually, it's 70 here too today.
Indoors. Yeah, indoors.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't you tell the folks how the show works?
Well, yeah. Hey, we break the show down into 4 parts. And every week it's Meridith and I getting together and being able to share a a difficult topic in sales. And we give you logical answers. We break it down into 4 parts. One is we have a topic that we walk through. 2 is we get a question from you, the listeners. And hey, I'm going to encourage you, jump out to Sales Logic Podcast, leave us a note, or just throw it up on social media with the hashtag Sales Logic. We'll find the question. Maybe we'll be answering your question next week. We have a 3rd part where we kind of feature a book that we're reading or we've read, we really want to share it with the audience. And the 4th part is the lightning round for bonus money each week, where we dig down into one issue and we just let fast answers fly fast. And we do it all in about 22 minutes. So Meridith, why don't you take us through, what do we got on the agenda today?
All right. First, I'm going to apologize if I have any background noise. I apologize. I'm in the lobby of the hotel. I've already checked out and I'm moving on to my next destination. But our topic today is target market, clearly defining yours, updating yours, and managing multiple target markets. I know that this is a topic that is near and dear to Mark's heart. And our question today comes from Sadia, and she asks, how often do I need to update my target market? So, Mark, what is your response for Sadia?
Well, the flippant answer is you only update it when your target market's no longer buying from you. But okay, let's put that answer aside. It really comes down to a couple things. You have to be continuously refining your market. And what do I mean by that? Looking at the outcomes. Have the outcomes you've been delivering, are they changing? And does that require a slight tweak? I rarely say you should walk away from your market. It's more just kind of tweaking and changing it slightly. What about you?
Well, I think first of all, you really need to ask yourself, have you defined your target market clearly enough to begin with? I know that Mark feels this way too, but so often people choose a target market by choosing an industry or choosing a position. But truly, you have to get more granular than that. I always tell people that the way that you choose your target market, your ideal, is really choosing your top 10 clients. Who are the people you love doing business with? They bring a smile to your face. They actually pay your prices and don't quibble about it. They buy multiple products and services. If you make a list of those 10 people, you'll start to see themes. And I'll just give you a quick example. When I first started out in sales, I thought I sold in professional services. But when I use this methodology to clearly define my target market, I found that I really sell across industries to a certain type of C-suite professional who's looking to do something specific with his or her company. So I would say start by asking yourself, have you really gone as deep as you needed to go to define that target market?
See, you bring up a good point there, because it's a position and an outcome. It's not a defined industry or a specific SIC code or something of that nature. That's where a lot of people fall down. I know initially when I got into the business, I was trying to focus in on an industry, very specific niche within it. And no, it's not. You have to define the parameters. And I always say you got to look for at least 5 parameters. And we'll dig more into this when we talk about the topic. But I contend this. I'm going to update my market. I'm going to revise my market every 3 to 6 months. And I'm just going to look at it and just kind of make a moderate shift, because it's a lot easier to make a very small shift occasionally than to make a radical shift every couple of years.
Yeah. So, I think we also need to answer the question as to why do you need to clearly define your target market? I mean, why even bother? I agree 100% with Mark. Every 3 to 6 months, you really need to be questioning, is this as clear as I need it to possibly be? And if you have not updated your target market since COVID happened, boy, you need to sit down and do it now, because everything about your target market is different. But let's talk about why you need to define your target market, get really clear on your target market, is because a sales call is the most expensive thing you will ever do. I mean, you're taking time, energy, and resources and going out, and it's going to take a while to get return on that investment. And some of that investment you'll never get return on. So you want to aim at the best shot you have of landing the deal. Everybody listening to us has a type. I mean, Mark and I may sell in the same industry, but certain people like working with him, certain people like working with me. And the more chances that I can control the sales call by deciding, is this a right fit for me or not, the better chance I have of closing deals much faster.
See, and that comes down to what is your level of confidence? Because if I can't be confident in the segment, the market I'm selling into, there's no way I'm ever going to be successful. So don't even think about it. You have to find that level of confidence. That's got to come. So,
yeah.
Hey,
Can I just make one thing? Because I think you made such an important point. And when you talked about parameters, is another thing that you need to do is, as you get new prospects, even go back to some of your existing customers. And once you've defined those parameters, ask yourself, is the person I'm calling on, did they fit these parameters? And if they don't, then you better have a pretty good reason why you're continuing to pursue it. And if they're a prospect, you probably need to move on. Remember, when you say yes to one prospect, you've said no to a whole set of other prospects. So I didn't want that to get lost, Mark, because I think you made such a brilliant point, and it's so critical.
Good. Hey, should we jump into the topic?
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you read it for us?
Well, the topic is your target market, clearly defining your target market and updating yours and managing multiple target markets. So what we're talking about here, think about the target market you want to go after. How many should you have? How do you update it? How do you clearly define it? What are all those parameters? Because it really dovetails well with Sadia's question. So go ahead and jump in first.
Well, Mark, I want to jump in with this idea of multiple target markets. And I'm just curious if you have multiple target markets and what you think about multiple target markets.
I say you can only have 3 to 4 at the max target markets. And that's only in an extreme situation. I really prefer salespeople where they're dealing with no more than 2 clearly defined markets. But sometimes you got to kind of extend it to 3 or 4, because here's the whole thing. Your selling process has to be tailored to that defined market. And how many selling processes can you really manage? You can't manage a dozen. You can only manage a couple really well. So don't get beyond that unless there's some really abnormal situation that says, I got to. And the selling process is different, but not 180 degrees different.
Yeah, I agree. I think I really always advise having an A and a B target market. Really, I like limiting it to 2 for a couple of reasons. I think you made such a good point about tailoring your sales process to your target market, but also you have to understand, in today's world, you've got to tailor your marketing message, because as Mark says, your reputation arrives before you do. So we start the sales process with content. We start the sales process with people looking at the articles that we're writing, at the videos that we're producing, at the emails that we're sending out. And if they're not clearly, they don't speak the language of your target market, if they're not answering the questions that your target market has, then you're wasting your effort there, and you're making the sales process harder than it has to be. You really can't manage that with 4. You can manage it with 2. The other thing I want to say is, don't think that your target market means these are the only people I'm going to sell to. The crazy thing about sales today is, when I niche, when I get really defined, I tend to attract more business and more types of customers. I always use Amazon for an example. When Amazon started, they were very clear that they wanted to target people who would buy books online. Most of us thought that was crazy. You go to a bookstore, right? So they just targeted to exactly that target market. And look where they are today.
And see, you got to remember something else. When you define your target market, you got to put a person behind it. I see too many people, what they do is they define a target market as a type of customer, as a this is what this company does, this is what they do. And they say, oh, well, then I guess I got to reach out to the purchasing department. No, because you don't have a person defined by it. For instance, I have one selling process that I use when I'm selling to CEOs and C-suite people. I have another selling process that I use to more mid-level people. Now, they can be in the same industry, but it's a completely different process, and I don't mix the two up.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that is such a great point. I want to go back to this idea too of grading your prospect using the parameters that Mark was talking about, because one of the beautiful things about a target market is that it helps you understand who qualifies for your time and who doesn't. So you need to be looking at who you called on every month. Just do a quick reflective process and really ask yourself, was I focused on my target market? Were my calls focused on my target market? Who needs to stay on my prospect list and who doesn't need to stay on my prospect list? Years ago, when I was a banker, that was one of the ways that we really made sure we finished top 5 in our company consistently every year, is we were so diligent as a sales team that if our prospects did not qualify, one of our big parameters was, do they make decisions locally? If they make decisions locally, they're in our target market. If that has to go to corporate headquarters, too hard, it's going to get out of our comfort zone. It's about controlling the sales process and really being honest with yourself and saying, this is a high and good use of my time, this isn't, is going to make you move through the sales process so much faster.
And one of the reasons you have to have this defined list, and you got to really keep it in the front of your mind and really on your desk at all times. For instance, just this last week, I had an inbound lead. Now people say, oh, inbound lead, that fits your market. And I'm talking to the gentleman and we have a wonderful 15 to 20 minute conversation. Doesn't fit. It did not fit. And I immediately passed the person and the company and the opportunity off to somebody else because I was not going to step outside of my bounds. Now, here's something very interesting. Some of you are listening to this, some of you are watching this and going, you're turning down business. Yes, I'm turning down business because I have other business in my pipeline. When you have a defined target market, when you know exactly where you're going, it is much easier to keep that pipeline full. And what does that do? That helps you make confident decisions to not engage. Some of the most vital decisions you make when you have your defined list is knowing who you do not do business with.
Yeah, such a great point. Interestingly enough, I had a friend of ours who had an inbound lead this week. It was for the C-suite, and she doesn't serve the C-suite, and she passed it on. She passed it on to me because I do serve the C-suite. That is one of the most difficult things to do. Here's the other challenge behind it. If she kept that lead, and I know because I have done that, I have been that sales pig who kept the lead that did not fit in their target market. That sale is so hard. Even if I land the business, it is painful and takes so much time and so much effort. And I'm never really going to be successful because I don't deeply understand that target market. That's the other thing you need to do. Once you define and clearly understand your target market, you need to get to know them. You need to know what their buying journey is. You need to know where they spend their time, what they do when they're at work, what they do in their free time. You need to understand their challenges. You need to understand where they're focused that year. You need to know them on an intimate level.
You brought up a term I had not heard before, sales pig.
Yes.
Wow. That's a new one. We're gonna add that to the Sales Logic Podcast dictionary of terms you need to know.
We need that.
We need that. I have to admit, I've been a sales pig or sales hog. I don't know how you call it. So anyway. Hey, here's something you got to think about this. You know your market. You know your defined market. When you are able to have conversations with people in your defined market, your ideal customer profile, and you're asking them questions that they don't have answers to. And oh, by the way, they're questions that you don't have the answers to, but you're both confident to have that conversation. Now, what have you done? You've just suddenly moved your relationship to the next level. Remember, every customer out there has options. It's called the internet. It's amazing. You can find pretty much anything you want anywhere. So what does that mean? You have to be seen as that absolute expert that goes above and beyond anything else out there. And you can only do that when you're playing in a very small, defined pool.
Yeah. To add to that, you need to realize that you need to be one step ahead of your target market. I mean, Mark just made such a great point that there's this thing out there called the internet. So anything that you would find out about your customer on the internet is going to be what they expect you to know. So you can't go in with the traditional questions you've asked in the past. Tell me a little bit about your business. Tell me what customers you're focused on. You should have known that research. You should have been ahead. Your questions need to really be focused on really getting to what their biggest challenges, what their biggest pain points are. And you need to go in with some ideas and some solutions of what those are anyway. And again, you can't do that if you have multiple target markets. If you have so many, it's going to be so hard to keep that straight in your head, and you can't do the level of research that you used to do. I feel like the sales profession has truly gone to another level. It's not about, certainly not about being an order taker, and it's not necessarily about traditionally what we thought of as relationship selling. You're really an advocate. You're really a resource. You're truly a guide. And again, you've got to know that target market to be able to do that.
See, because your knowledge has to go beyond what the customer can find quickly on the internet. Mm-hmm. And if your knowledge base and the intellect that you bring to the situation doesn't go beyond what the customer can find quickly on the internet, you have no value. This is why you have to be defined. This is why I also tell, once you've defined your ideal customer profile, and again, it may be focused more around a specific title. It might be defined around a buying cycle. It might be defined around a customer that they serve. It can be defined around a variety of parameters. But what I always say is this: if I have a prospect and it doesn't line up to at least 70 to 75% minimally of the profile of that ideal customer, I don't even entertain them. I do not even go down that path. And the second piece is this, because when I know my ideal customer profile, I'm going to spend time. I'm going to invest time in learning more about that very specific person, that very specific segment, because I have to have a doctorate degree in understanding my ICP. That's the only way I'm going to be successful, because otherwise customers have options.
Yeah. So what's the lessons here? And the lessons here are the fact that if you're not closing sales right now, if you're really struggling, go back to the target market. That's probably the first piece of the sale process that's broken. It's natural for it to be broken. Again, I could be floating along and having an unbelievable first quarter of the year, and as soon as I enter into April, something's off in my sales process. Well, something might have shifted with my target market. I'll just give you a quick example. I work a lot in the healthcare space, and I've got a client that I started calling on before COVID, and the changes that they have gone through from before COVID to during COVID to now under a new administration that's pro healthcare, they're changing who they are as a target market, and what they need as a target market has really changed, and I have to change with it. So I think that idea of, if you're not getting the deal to close, go back to the top of the sales funnel and really focus on do you have the target market right?
Hey, we should jump into the book. Tell us,
yes.
What's the book today?
Oh, well, I'm a little bit embarrassed that I left it upstairs in the hotel room, so I don't have a picture of it right now, but write this down. It is, we'll make sure that it goes into the show notes and loads up when we get it into a podcast. But it's a book that I just finished called The Ask Method, and it is by Ryan Levesque, Levesque. Again, The Ask Method. And it is all about how you use really great questions to, one, differentiate yourself in the marketplace, to two, intimately understand your customer, and three, to really build a funnel where you start to pull customers to you. Getting out on that front end to really use the idea of questioning to differentiate yourself in the marketplace and to get customers coming to you rather than you having to go to them. It's a brilliant formula. It is a little a little complicated to understand at first, but then it gets simple at the end. And I've been playing around with it and really really starting to put it into place. But I've loved the book. It's an easy read and an innovative way to approach customers, which is something we need in today's marketplace. I want to say that we are having a great stream of people joining us this morning. A big shout out to Kate and to Adam and to Dave and to Scott. And we've got everybody from hanging out in 80-degree weather to 18 degrees in St. Louis. But our friend Dave Sanderson has joined us this morning. And Kate, you are absolutely right. Sometimes it really helps to visualize the person and their personality, what they think, what is their value. So.
Hey, I got to add one quick comment. It's funny when, I saw the note, the ask method, and I couldn't think of it, but then you said Ryan. I said, yeah, Ryan is a great guy. And I'll tell you, one of the things that he really espouses, why you got to read the book, is very simply this. Now I realize I have read the book. It really comes down to, it's not the information you share, it's the questions you ask that will separate you from your competition. And think about that. If you're going into your ideal customer profile, you're going to have better questions. So, hey, we should jump into the lightning round because time is moving. Lightning round. Best ways to find, connect, and engage your target market. Put your hand on the buzzer. Go.
Well, first of all, I got to give a shout out to Adam. Thank you so much for the comments. You are absolutely right. The more information you know, the better potential questions you are going to ask that are truly going to be thought provoking. So, Mark, I'm sorry, you got to repeat the lightning round. What is it again? Well, the
lightning round was best ways to find, connect, and engage your target market.
All right, so I'm going to go back to my idea of write down your top 10 customers. Those people who bring a smile to your face, pay you money, just write them down, walk away, get a drink of water, come back, and start to look for themes. Those themes define your target market.
I love staying engaged with people by sending them a checklist. 5 questions you should be asking you about your business.
Oh, that's a great idea. Another way to engage your target market is find out where they go in their off time. Don't make everything professional. Maybe they like to play a little bit of golf. Maybe they're people who ride horses. Maybe they're big in their PTA. But where can you engage your target market that isn't necessarily professionally oriented?
Share with them the link to an article that you've just read. Share with them something happening in the industry. It's a way for you to demonstrate that you're staying in tune with their industry.
Survey them every 3 to 4 months. Just send out a 3-question survey that says, we're looking to make sure that we're updating our products and services to better serve customers just like you. This survey will take you 3 minutes. Would love to know your ideas and opinions about what's happening in 2021.
Something I love to do with CEOs is I love to pop them a note and say, hey, I just got done reading this book. It's a great book. Have you had a chance to read it? Recommend to them other ways for them to grow their intellect.
Yeah, I think a great way to do it would be podcasts, and you can recommend Sales Logic, right? Backing up on my survey, the next thing is to share the results of that survey. I mean, another thing that I think is a really great way to engage your target market is to say, here are the trends that we're seeing happening in your marketplace. These are the things that other people in positions just like you are concerned and worried about.
Create other connections that go beyond the person that you're dealing with. Create a circle of peers, a circle of friends within every target market that you are working in.
Yeah, invite them to something that would be valuable to them. Maybe it's something that you're putting on, or perhaps it's an event in your local community. But just invite them to something that would be of value to them.
Be authentic and be transparent. Be who you are. More than ever right now, relationships matter. Why don't you share one more? I'll share one more, and then we'll kind of close it down.
Yeah, use the personal touch. I called on a prospect the other day, and I found out we went to the same college by doing my research. And so in the subject line, I just put, go name of the team where we graduated, and it got a response because it helps her understand that I went a little bit further and we have something in common.
Okay, we can go ahead and say it. We are Penn State. You got to put the pause in there, folks. You got to put the pause in there. So anyway, and here's one final one that I'll say. never stop caring about them as an individual. Pick up the phone, make the call. I can't underestimate the power of the phone call, even if you don't ever connect with them. Hey, with that, we need to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I am Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right, we'll see you next Saturday at 9 o'clock. Don't forget, if you have questions, go to our website, saleslogicpodcast.com, and we will feature you on Sales Logic.